when it came to like what DC is doing now, I believe that when DC went ahead and saw Iron Man came out and it received the reception it did, they were like, all right, cool, that's fine. Well, it's not really DC, it's Warner Brothers. Because Warner Brothers owns DC and they own all of the fucking IPs, okay? And that's another aspect, okay? What happened, though, was that Warner Brothers was sitting there, they were like, okay, we have Wonder Woman, we have Superman, we have Batman, probably the three most recognizable superheroes in the world, okay, and in the history of comics, if you think about it, okay. And then Iron Man came out, and the thing is that Iron Man, up until after the movie came out, he was never considered an A-list type character. In fact, many of the characters that they decided to go ahead and put together. In fact, the founding members of the Avengers at one time, within the past decade that their first initial movie came out, at one time or another, sometimes multiple times, were considered for dropping, to be dropped by Marvel. All right. Iron Man, they were like, we don't know if we could do anything with this particular character, or if he's going to be a real big hit. And it's not like casual people were going out of their way and buying comics on a regular basis or anything like that. The huge market for comic books that existed during the mid 90s and everything, it crashed and almost brought the whole fucking industry down with it. So what happened was that, fast forward a decade later, you've got 2008. Warner Brothers is in the midst of doing a reinvention of Batman with Christopher Nolan at the helm and everything. He's doing his thing. And then Marvel comes out with Iron Man, and they have big plans, okay? But the difference is that Marvel and Marvel Studios and everything else, they have a very long-term goal in mind. They knew that if they were going to go ahead and push this forward, that they would have to be very, very, they would have to go out of their way and hope that other bigger studios at the time would go ahead and cooperate with them, and that they would be willing to let them play.
So real quick, I want to stop you real quick, simply for this reason. Do you think, since we're at the beginning, do you think that if Iron Man failed to make the numbers that it did, do you think that Marvel would still have the balls to proceed with plans as, their plans to move it on to a bigger and better scene? So I'm asking you that is because you could do that same thing. I just wanted to get that opinion on that on the Marvel side, and then you could actually use that on the DC side on certain things. So I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, let's rewind a little bit as far as history and everything goes. Up until that point, up until the Avengers, all right, the traditional point of thinking was that, okay, if you're going to do a crossover or a team type show or something like that, you do a team movie first, and then you do spin-offs on the individual characters.
Yeah.
Later.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what everybody's conventional thinking was. When Marvel Studios actually started going ahead and throwing their hat in for production and stuff like that, and they're going out of their way and they're asking studios like Universal to go ahead and help them distribute and market their movies and stuff like that. They're sitting there, they're like, okay, the one thing that they did that they know they needed to do was that they needed complete creative control. But they also knew that if they did Iron Man, that it had to work because they really only had one shot at it. Okay, comic book movies outside of certain particular IPs and everything else wasn't really profitable. Shit. The most profitable IP, as far as it goes, ever for fucking Marvel is Spider-Man. and he was in the midst of having his shit re-scrambled, and people didn't like Spider-Man 3. Yep. So that was the whole reality of it. So they go ahead and they're like, all right, we're going to go ahead and give you creative control over Iron Man and everything else. It was a big risk going out of their way to get a hold of Robert Downey Jr. because up until that point, he was not insurable. I think the only thing that he had beforehand, before this huge drought of movies that he did not appear in, or this huge drought in his whole fucking career, was Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. All right, I think that was the movie that he did before Iron Man, that showed that yes, he was actually in a good enough condition to go ahead and work in Hollywood again. Because generally speaking, guess what? People remember him from what? Weird Science. And when he was still a teen star. After that, it was Falling Down, and where he really fell down, and he developed a drug and alcohol problem and everything else, and he ended up in rehab, and he had literally fallen off the face of the earth for like a decade, okay, at least. But when Jon Favreau, the director, and who was also one of the producers and creative people behind the first Iron Man, he was like, I want Robert Downey Jr. I need somebody. His whole take was, if I was going to go ahead and do Iron Man, look, CG had come along in such a way where it's like getting the metal suit, flying in the air and doing all of that stuff, not a fucking problem if you have the money. All right. Where he concentrated was completely at the right place. He concentrated on filling the role of Tony Stark. Okay. So they went ahead and they got Robert Downey Jr. Tony Stark, if you know his background, recovering alcoholic, rich boy. All right. He was famous and everything else as a young kid and all of that. Things happen that go ahead and turn his life upside down. He has a change of heart, and he turns into a hero. All right. Not a perfect hero, but a hero. All right. So they go ahead and they push forward this idea to go ahead and do Iron Man. If Iron Man didn't succeed the way that it did, I don't think we would have seen the rest of the Marvel Universe. Okay. If it would have went ahead and broke even, it would have been really, really hard for them to go out of their way to even convince anybody else that Captain America or Thor was even worth the fucking try. So, yeah, they had a lot riding on Iron Man, and when it turned out to be such a big fucking hit, and people were like, all right, cool. Not only did it prove that you could do comic book movies, but you could do comic book movies where the characters look like their actual comic book counterparts. That kind of opened up everything else. And their whole Marvel Studios' whole thing was that they were setting up everything in the long term. Look, we're not thinking about just 3 movies. We're not thinking about just what we can do in the next 5 years. We're thinking about 3 movies for each and every fucking character. We're thinking about multiple crossover event movies every 3 to 5 years going forward, and then we're going to introduce new people into the fold, and we're going to introduce new characters that are going to get their own individual movies, and they're going to end up continuing on crossovers throughout perpetuity. That's what they're hoping. And they went ahead, they made sure that they did their due diligence, and they put together the building blocks and the foundations to go ahead and build that all out. The thing with DC, and it's really not DC, it's Warner Brothers, all right? Because Warner Brothers went ahead and they bought Detective Comics as a whole, including all of its subsidiaries, and that includes, I believe, Vertigo and other IPs and everything else attached to it back in the 70s. The thing with Warner Brothers is that they went ahead, they had something that was equally marketable and everything else that was going on, because you got to remember, the same month that Iron Man came out is the same month that The Dark Knight came out. Okay? So, and Dark Knight was hugely successful, even though I don't think it's a good Batman movie. and that's not a popular opinion. I think it's a horrible Batman movie. It's a good hero movie. It's a good comic book movie. It's a horrible Batman movie. But that's conversation for something later. The problem that we have, though, is that we've got this, they have their weight and everything else on particular characters, and they're still stuck on the traditional train of thought. Their problem at Warner Brothers, and it's not at the DC level, is at Warner Brothers. And it's, if you look at all of the issues with a lot of the movies that they pushed out so far, it's a lot of corporate meddling, a lot of boardroom meddling, a lot of shit that's put together by committee. It's a lot of executives that say, hey, we got to put these things in here so that it hits certain market groups, it hits certain demographics, it hits certain committees for media and other things, for marketing, and also we don't want to piss anybody off, or we don't want to do certain things that'll hurt marketability and all of that stuff. That it's tragic. It really is tragic, because they have a very, very rich character history and a huge line of comic book IPs. Well, almost 80 years worth of stories that they can go ahead and they can pick and choose for any of the people. Like I said, Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, the three most recognizable superheroes probably in all of the history of modern comic books. Okay? And the only person that they could seem to go ahead and find something working for in this modern day seems to be Batman, if they do something that's standalone. But the problem with Warner Brothers, though, is that they keep their movie division is up here in their own compartment. TV is in its own compartment. Animation and comic books are also in their own department. They don't want to go ahead and say, hey, look, everything ties together from the ground up. All right. If you do something in the movies, it's going to affect things in TV, and it's also going to affect every stuff in comic books and animation. When the truth is that the folks in comic books, animation, and TV, they know these fucking IPs so fucking well, they handle them, which is the reason why these series are such hits on a regular weekly basis. But, no, hey, they're movie guys. They're movie guys. They know the fucking movie media. How dare they have to go ahead and actually consult with somebody at fucking animation or fucking TV or in fucking comic books to go ahead and ask them how to handle a story or a character. God forbid the fact that, it's originally a comic book character and they're, that's source material that you're trying to fucking work off of, That's nothing. They're comic book guys. Fuck them. They know nothing about movies. And that's the thing that kills me about it.
What's really funny is that I was thinking as you were going on your spill here, DC has 100% control over all their IPs in DC.
Yep.
And Marvel has control over 80% of their IPs. There's other IPs given
actually,
and
no, actually, if you look at how things are, how things are split up, it's even less than that.
Well, what I'm saying is that if you look at it from a that standpoint, what the fuck is wrong with Warner Brothers? You have complete 100% control of all DC IPs. 100%. You own everything. Marvel, on the other hand, like you said, owns, 60% maybe of their IPs? But they're doing better.
Yeah.
How does that make any sense?
Well, a big part of it is that, there's a big storyline arc that they're going ahead, they're approaching this with. And this is the reason why, here's the wonderful thing about the Marvel movies, and also the horrible thing about Marvel movies, if you think about it, is that a lot of the best, most successful sets of movies out there, they're part of a long-running series, are usually done in trilogies and stuff like that. Well, the way that Marvel has it set up is that they want that going on where it doesn't end. You never hit that third movie. Okay? Yeah. You might hit that third movie for an individual character, but you're not hitting it for the universe overall.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, which has its own downsides and its own weaknesses. The wonderful thing about what Marvel has done with their movies and their IP so far is that, guess what? They don't have any of their rock stars. Okay, Fantastic Four and the X-Men are owned by Fox, and the thing is that when Fantastic Four left and it was owned by Fox, it also took along with them the majority of the alien races that were attached to the Fantastic Four, because when it came to Fantastic Four, they gained their powers by going off in space and dealing with otherworldly things. All of the extraterrestrial shit, including Galactus and Beyonder and Silver Surfer and all those other, galaxy-threatening, devouring threats and stuff like that, those guys were all under the Fox control. Marvel cannot touch them. They can't do anything with that. All right, they cannot do anything with those particular types of things, specifically like the Skrulls or the Kree. Well, no, they can do the Kree, but they can't do the Skrulls. And other major Marvel alien races and stuff like that. So they've got that. With X-Men, not only did they lose X-Men, but they also lost all reference to any mutant characters. Okay? So that right there is a huge chunk of characters out of the universe that they do not have access to at all. Nobody. And the thing is that the X-Men, all right, the Fantastic Four is the very first superhero team that Marvel ever fucking produced in print. All right? So yeah, they are a cornerstone portion of Marvel. The X-Men has been a rock star soap opera fucking series ever since the late 70s. Okay? So yeah, they don't have their big rock stars. Sony has Spider-Man. Not only did they take Spider-Man, they took Venom, Scorpion, Vulture, Green Goblin, Hobgoblin, Mysterio, Kraven the Hunter, the Daily Bugle. Okay, Dr. Octopus. They took all of that, all of that stuff. Black Cat.
Yep.
Drake. They took, they took all of that stuff attached to Spider-Man,
yep.
Specifically, who is also, right now, and actually for the last 50 years, he is the Marvel superstar. He is the most identifiable Marvel superhero character, regardless of even the movies that have come out over the last decade. So Marvel has not had their superstar rock star characters, their most marketable characters, for over a decade to go ahead and market, try to go ahead and do things with. So what they had to do is that they literally had to reach, not just in the back channels and the back library and everything else, they had to reach in the fucking trash can. All right? Like I said, Iron Man, Thor, Captain America, Hulk, over the last decade, before 2008, they at one time or multiple times over were all at the risk of being canceled in their comic book run at Marvel. So they literally had to sit there and pluck out their B-list characters, all right, or at least the most recognizable of their B-list characters, to go ahead and put them on put them on the big screen. Guardians of Galaxy, those motherfuckers weren't even popular back in the late 70s, early 80s, when that comic book was initially in print, all right? Yeah, they've got newfound popularity now because of the success of the fucking movie and everything else, but literally, they are scraping fucking bottom of the barrel. And I didn't even mention the fact that, they didn't have control of fucking Ghost Rider, they didn't have control of Blade, they didn't have control of Daredevil. All right, these are all motherfuckers who or Punisher. These are all guys that barely came back in the fold over the last 2 years. Okay, so yeah, what Marvel has done with their particular movies and everything else is incredible, especially considering that they don't have to sit there and wrangle around or bargain with anybody on a corporate level. Hey, can Spidey come out to play? They don't have to sit there and run down the street to go ahead and ask that. Warner Brothers has access to everything. But the problem with Warner Brothers is that when Marvel Studios goes ahead and they put together a story or a set of movies or a storyline arc that they want to go ahead and address, okay. And I know there are issues with Marvel writing and like certain social and political slants that they've taken over the last 2 years, or actually over the last 4 years, that are really, really troubling. But I'm not even going to touch on that. All right. But what they have done was that, hey, look, they understood that if Captain America does really, really well in the movies, then I could push a brand new storyline that I don't think would work otherwise, to the Captain America comics. All right. I can make sure that Captain America shows up in a lot of the animated projects that are put on screen or put on Netflix or put straight to DVD and everything else. Everything works together. This is the character that they push in the forefront. It works from the comic books, which is their source material, all the way up. Yeah. All right. Warner Brothers, they're like, okay, we have the Justice League. All right, let's see what we have to deal with. Oh, we got Cyborg. Hey, that's really interesting. We'll go ahead and we'll mess around with Cyborg. All right. And then the guys in the animation and the comic books department, they're like, hey, if you need any help with Cyborg, go ahead and don't hesitate to ask us. And the guys up in the movie division, especially over the last 10 years, unless it's changed recently, they're like, why the fuck would we ask you? You're fucking comic books. You're fucking TV. You're fucking animation. You don't know shit about movies. I'm not gonna fucking ask you. And the truth of the matter is, they're like, we're just the motherfuckers who built the stories that you're gonna fucking work with. And that's
the sad part about this is what you're saying right now. It's so true. It's so self-evident.
Yeah.
It's screaming.
Not only is it something that I'm going to go ahead and I'm throw out there just as somebody who's followed it, but there are podcasts and there are interviews. There's video of folks who work in the animation department, in the comic books, in TV, who went ahead and said, hey, look, we are dealing with these characters on a regular basis. These motherfuckers in the movie department, in Warner Brothers movie studios, don't even want to go ahead and ask us for a hint here nor there about this. And it blows my fucking mind. It just really does. Because, here's the thing. If I was going out of my way and I was like, all right, I'm going to visit Georgia, for a few weeks. All right. I'm not going to sit there. I'm not going to ask the theme about that. I'm going to ask you, Graymouse, about that. Okay. Hey, look, if I'm in Georgia for a few weeks, what the fuck is down there for me to do? If there's some place that I'm not supposed to go around your fucking neighborhood, or if there's some place that, doesn't have, you think that the food fucking sucks, or I know there are things like, the liquor laws are different down south than they are here in California. Is there something I want to go ahead and think about? I'm not going to ask the theme about that. I'm going to ask you. That's because guess what? You're from there, and that's what you're used to dealing with and everything else. You have a whole lifetime of fucking experience going ahead available as somebody who's to go ahead and address that. Likewise, all right. If you were to go ahead and you wanted to I don't know, hook up with some random Filipina chick or something like that, and everything else, and you wanted to go ahead and you're worrying about making good impression on the parents or something like that, you're probably not going to ask the theme about that. You're probably going to ask me. Oh, shit. I don't know, man. I've only been Filipino all of my fucking life. All right? I have no fucking idea about that. It doesn't make sense. And that's probably the most frustrating part about Warner Brothers is that they have control of everything that they've got to offer, whether or not it's on comic books, in TV, in animated form, or on the big screen in movies. But they just can't seem to get it together.
And you know, I may have sounded very pessimistic in the last video with the Justice League trailer #1, but if I'm looking at any indication of what has happened in the past, I'm pretty sure I hit the nail on the head with it being, especially it's the same director. It's going to be an incoherent story, and you're going to be like, I mean, we were just counting. There was like 3 or 4 disconnects just from just the characterization of the certain Justice League members. Now, I remember on this channel we also talked about when we talked about the Avengers movie and the Civil War. When we talked about that, we were like, yes, Spider-Man would say that. Yes, Captain America would say that. Yes, I feel that Thor would have said something like that. You know, we could actually, you know, you felt that was the character. That was the character that you know and love. Now, on the DC side of the house, I just couldn't say, yeah, Batman said that. You know, it's like, maybe I'm being nitpicky, but you know, you see what I'm saying? It's like, or not just say that. Yeah, the Hulk would do that. I would think the Hulk would do that. You know, just by knowing the character of what the Hulk is, his mannerisms, you know, just growing up, reading the comics and watching the cartoons and watching, you know, I could like, yeah, they portrayed the Hulk the way I feel that, or a lot of the fans felt that, yeah, the Hulk would do something like that. And you know, it's like Batman versus Superman, you know, you're just sitting there like, no, Superman wouldn't do that, you know? Or, I mean, would Superman really kill Zod? I mean, it's just like, you're just like, would Lex Luthor know who the Justice League is before they even form the Justice League? It's like, you're just like, is Lex Luthor a Joker? No, Lex Luthor is a killer. He is what I got from that is that they completely portrayed Lex Luthor completely wrong. I mean, his whole character was wrong. He is not a joker. He does not joke around. He's a very calculating, cunning, brilliant strategist. He's always been that. And that garbage that they gave, that's unfucking acceptable.
I really don't.
Blown away. I'm sorry, I'm going into a tangent, but I'm serious. I could not say, yeah, Lex Luthor would have said that. I could not say that. I couldn't put myself to say that.
You know, I think the one thing that we got to sit there and consider, especially when it comes to adaptations, because the comic book movies, they are adaptations and stuff like that. I will allow with a little bit of variance, you know, as far as what we're expecting or what we see on, because everybody's going to have a different take on a character, all right, or a different interpretation of a character when they go ahead and take it one thing.
But when you go day and night on a character, you know, people instantly who actually know the character, even to a small extent, like Metropolis being freaking over the lake or over, you know, away. What?
The problem with that, and you know, not to get too geeky about it, is that look, the problem with Superman as a whole is that if they're really worried about the major things that happen as far as writing, you know, writing injustices or doing right and wrong, the guy's capable of. He's fucking Superman. He has no set limits. All right, so he can go ahead and he can fix things. All right, he's not going to save everybody. All right, because he can only be one place at one time. I understand. All right, that's probably the only limitation that Superman has to go ahead and deal with. But the thing about it is that, you know, if you're talking about like, I don't know, it looks like cities that are separated by literally like you said, like a bay or something like that, where it looks like, oh, hey, look, I can see the bat signal from fucking Metropolis. That means, oh, Metropolis is like, the center of Metropolis is something like 5 miles away from the center of fucking Gotham. You know, it doesn't make sense that, oh, this whole area, all right, that Metropolis is pristine and great, but Gotham is a complete fucking slum, and it's completely fucking crime ridden, and that, you know, you have to rely on some dude who doesn't have fucking superpowers with a lot of goddamn money to go ahead and scrape together some sort of sanity in this fucking city. It doesn't make sense. You know?
Not with Metropolis right across the bay when Superman can literally fly there. Anyway, we're nitpicking here, but the thing is, what ticks me off the most is this. DC has the fucking potential to be the greatest. DC Warner Brothers have the best potential to be the greatest superhero movies ever. The way I see it, you know what? Fuck all this shit. Just hit the reverse button, go back, and build your, like I said before, build your universe. Who cares if it takes 10 years later and we all forgot about the Marvel? You know, build up a Cyborg movie, build up a Batman movie, build up, you know, a Superman movie, and then put them together, pull them together for a Justice League. Reboot the shit. It's never too late.
Unfortunately, they're not going to do that.
I know they're not.
Yeah, they're not going to do that. And the problem with it is that they have corporate people. They have people with very deep pockets who sit in very big ivory towers, you know, looming over them, looking for shit to happen really goddamn quick, you know. And it's one of those things that if there was a DC movie studios on its own that had to sit there and prove itself and push its thing forward, all right, and set things up on its own beforehand, then you would have seen something similar to what Marvel did, all right, and you wouldn't have the same type of meddling and stuff like that. Because the problem with Batman v Superman, and I have yet to see Suicide Squad. Okay, the problem with it is that on both of them, from everything that I've heard and everything that I've read on it, is that it just seems like they've been put together by committee, where you didn't have a really strong creative voice going out of the way saying, no, this is what it's supposed to be like. Yep. And guess what? I have the track record to show that my vision is correct. Okay.
It's just really sad that DC has 100% control of all their IPs. There is no reason any of this should be happening right now, especially. And Marvel's making them look real bad because, like you said, 60% of their IPs, you know, they own that, and it's spread out between Fox and Sony and other places as well. But these, I think it's the corporate people up there in the top doing this that have no idea. Yeah, they're telling them what to do instead of letting the people have creative that know about it have creative control over it. What they're not realizing is that they would make a whole hell of a lot of money if those corporate guys were more hands off with their IPs.
Not just that, but if they also allowed, if they say that they're there for their creative people to do what they want to do, if they allow their creative people to go ahead and handle things, then they probably have a lot better results. Okay, I wouldn't say that it'd be something that would beat the way that Marvel has put everything together, because guess what? That doesn't take into account, like we've said multiple times, that Marvel took their time with this. They made sure they put in almost a full decade of work to get where they're at. Yeah, you know, there's a reason why that, you know, they're able to go out of their way and do characters like Ant-Man or Doctor Strange or shit like that, because
by the way.
Yeah, they put in the work to do that. You know, it's just a different type of investment, and unfortunately, the folks at Warner Brothers the CEOs or the folks who with the big pockets that put the money into this, they are not concerned with doing that, which is just sad. That's just how it goes. Yep.
So, do you think that that after this big hoo-ha with Thanos, I mean, are they going to move on to is there going to be more of a storyline? Because, like you said before, they're going to try to never reach that third movie. But the Infinity Wars, that's a pretty big movie. How can they take that to the next level? What will be next after they defeat Thanos?
Well, the thing about that is that there's actually quite a few other options that they can go to. The thing is that it depends on a few things: how successful they are, and also whether or not the control of the other IPs are able to actually land back to Marvel.
You're talking about Apocalypse? That went with the X-Men.
Yeah, no. I'm talking about. Here's the thing. You don't have to look to big galactic threats to make these event movies worthwhile and stuff like that. Okay, that's one thing that I have to say. There are a lot of interesting stories. There are over 80 years of interesting stories for them to go through. The problem is that whether or not they're able to go ahead and say, hey, look, we can handle this event level, we can adapt this huge comic book event to work with the movie screen, but is there enough parts that are left over after the fact that we go ahead and we carve off, oh, hey, look, Sony has this, Fox has this, and other stuff. Is there enough there that's left there in order to go ahead and do that? That's really something that Disney is going to go ahead and have to choose. Like I said, there are a whole bunch of other things that they can go ahead and do. It's one of those things where at this moment in time, if I'm taking into account where they're going, I would have to see where they end up with the Avengers Infinity War, where they end up at that point in order to say, okay, it looks like this is where they're going to next. Well, but they still have lots of options.
True, but to me, I think they're going to have to scale it down, because you got this big, huge galactic event that's involved pretty much everybody in the Marvel Universe, more or less. And so they're going to have to scale it back down to a more sizable. So are they going to continue with the Guardians of the Galaxy? Are they going to continue with Ant-Man? Are they going to continue with Doctor Strange? Are they going to, I think there are a couple other, Black Panther's another one that's another option because he got his own story and his own things.
No, there's enough things that are happening on Earth as far as like the Marvel Universe goes that they can go ahead and handle out. I'm not worried about them running out of story. In fact, if they have smart enough people, they can go ahead and they can run things correctly. They'll be able to run this for the next 30 fucking years if they want to. All right, easily.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the reason why they go ahead and they're going to recycle characters, or they're going to end particular, take particular characters out of circulation and stuff like that, is because guess what? Even though they've got stuff lined up that they can adapt for the next, literally for the next 70 years, if they're drawing upon all of the comic books history and everything else, the actors available to them aren't going to be available to go ahead and do that shit on screen for 70 years. It's not going to work out that way. So, it is what it is. So, like I said, there's enough going on Earth for them to go ahead and concentrate with fucked up shit on Earth. So, like I said, they can take it out of the cosmos, bring it back to Earth, and then, all of a sudden, it's inevitable, but they're gonna start messing with timelines and alternate dimensions and other shit like that. So there are so many possibilities.
Especially with Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange is like an open gate to other dimensions. I mean, so it seems to me that there's a lot of story there for Doctor Strange. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, and by extension for the whole Marvel universe as it is.
Yep.
So,
okay.
Yep.